We're professionals.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gaming Without Parole. Sitting across from me this weekend, every week, the only one other than me in the room is Desra.
And sitting across from me is Brian Paul.
Yep, Catholic school, you know the drill.
Has it been a week already?
It's been roughly exactly a week.
My goodness.
Roughly and exactly.
Yeah, that feels like a week's worth. No, it doesn't. That looks like a week's worth of growth.
I shaved and regrew this in the last week.
Honest to God.
That's why they call me Daddy. Desra, last week we were talking about my favorite thing to talk about, my favorite genre of games.
VR games.
PlayStation VR specifically.
Yes. Well, and actually, he's legitimate this time. This really is his favorite genre of game.
It's my favorite way to play games.
Yes.
I like pretty much every genre in it,
Yeah.
because it makes everything better.
It sort of brings that conversation up. Is this a medium or a genre? Well, VR, it's a medium.
And who cares? It's
Okay.
awesome. It's so cool. We talked about 6 games last week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if you count Hero Cade, like 15 games.
Let's talk about that, but sure.
Oh, wow, I did math quite really fast. Okay.
Yay, math.
But we have 6 more games to talk about this week. And just remember that Farpoint, again, still not out.
Right.
As of this filming. So I'm sure there's going to be plenty of Farpoint coverage on the channel for you to watch. It's just not on this.
Yeah. Hey, you folks are lucky we're talking about games that, usually we talk about games that are like 20, 30 years old.
Seriously.
These are games that have happened in the last month, literally.
Pretty impressive for us. Yeah. And I do want to say that Sony has been very, very good about updating the PlayStation 4 firmware, updating the VR firmware, so that they recognize there's a problem. You know, we had some major tracking issues, I think, at launch.
Yeah.
And they updated that with a patch, and everything seems to work slightly better now.
Yeah.
Also, the coolest thing I think they did for us, with no charge, was they turned our PlayStation VRs into 3D Blu-ray watching experiences.
Yeah.
So, like a month ago, I popped in Finding Nemo, the 3D Blu-ray, and I got to sit back and watch it in 3D. I hate 3D movies, but again, I like watching it in VR.
Right. And now it's just a value add, right? It's easy. It's something extra to sell it and say, hey, now you don't, well, I mean, I guess you still need to wear VR or 3D goggles, but you already have them.
It's weird, because I always hated saying, I always said, I don't want to watch this on a 3D TV because I don't want to wear glasses.
Yeah.
But then I sat there for 2 hours with a VR helmet strapped to my face.
To be fair, that's a lot more comfortable than some of the 3D glasses I've worn.
This is true.
Yeah.
Right on. Des, would you like to take us away for the very first game we're going to talk about this week?
Yeah, so this was another one that was just like, oh, I'm starting to get where this could be, a thing. And this is VR Invaders.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I mean, the name kind of conjures up the idea of Space Invaders, and it sort of has that. You have waves of enemies that are kind of attacking in certain patterns. This is just fun. It's just plain old, straight up fun. Yeah. There's a story. Who cares? You're kind of like this. They're called a diver, and you're in to try to rescue people who get caught in VR.
Again, who cares?
Yeah, again, who cares? The voice acting, I will say this: the voice acting is very professional. But the thing that struck me the most is, I don't know, if you've been to Disney World
or when I was 7, yeah.
Or, there's a sort of kind of attitude towards the voiceovers and the things that happen in the rides. This feels like the Disney World version of a game.
Nice.
Just the guy trying desperately to sound cool and saying uncool things, and the bot. It sounds like it felt like a Disney World experience.
For me, it felt like voices out of a pinball machine.
Yeah. The same kind of like clinical, not very cool, trying to be cool sort of thing. The awesome part is that I think the developers recognize this. You can shut it all off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can just turn off the plot and absolutely do that. So enough about that. Let's talk about the actual gameplay. One hand has a shield. One hand has a gun.
2 move controllers.
And I've had a history of kind of crapping on the move controllers in the past. I've come around, and I will say this. The move controller is not the problem. Lazy developers are the problem.
Yeah.
Because they have not changed the hardware on these things, but they are tracking amazingly well. Yeah. This is, I think, what was the rails shooter You showed me last time.
Until Dawn, Rush of Blood.
Yes. That was the one. The first time I touched move control, I was like, oh, what I'm doing with my hands is happening exactly on the screen.
1-to-1.
Yeah, the people on for VR Invaders,
Yeah,
they got that perfectly. Your shield, you've got one of your buttons. You basically slow down time temporarily, which is super useful when you have waves of dozens of drones coming at you. As you shoot, it's like your basic shmup.
Yeah.
Things flying out at you, health, you shoot that. You can get multiple weapons. There's shotgun. Bleh. Not so great.
Yeah, the shotgun I wasn't impressed with. But the plasma blaster's good.
Plasma blaster's great, and the best is this invincible mode. Your shield goes away, you get 2 guns, and for a limited amount of time, you're totally invincible, dual wielding. Everything's awesome.
The best part for me is shooting the shots that are coming at you. So you don't even need the shield if you're good enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's just a blast. And absolutely no motion sickness issues at all.
Oh.
And I will say, laughably, so Brian kind of made fun of me. I was trying to take notes on a notebook next to me on the couch because I was like, I want to remember these things, so I don't want to be grasping at names. And I was so immersed at one point, I looked down next to me because your character is sort of, well, I don't know if it's seated, but stationary at least. So I looked down next to me to get my notebook, and it wasn't there. I'm like, hey, where's my... Oh, that's right. I'm in the virtual world now. And that was the first moment I had where I was so engrossed and involved in that. It was like I lost track of where things were in real reality. It's an arcade game. That's kind of simple. Not playing for a plot. If you play through the story, 2 hours maybe.
Yeah, it's short.
Yeah, it's really, really short. But you're not playing it for that. You're playing it for an arcade, trying to beat your high score, and just go in and just blow the crap out of stuff.
Yeah, my 2 complaints about this.
Okay.
One complaint is that I think all the enemy types are kind of on the small side, right?
Yeah.
And that includes the bosses. The bosses, I feel like they could have had some epic moments with like like a giant boss like raising out from the ground.
Yeah.
And all the bosses even felt on the small side. The other complaint I have is there's no force feedback. There's no vibration in the move controllers when you're shooting. And this is strange because it's like I didn't even notice actually until someone pointed it out to me. I did my whole review and then somebody told me and it kind of ruined it for me because there's something missing. The guns look so cool in your hands, but then you fire and like no reaction from the move controllers.
Yeah, I didn't miss that. I don't think. I think and I will say I think contrary to that, like one of the cool things I liked about it was the fact that the drones were so small they could be in your peripheral vision, and that's one thing you might want to complain about because with with any of the PSVR games, you are sort of tunnel vision. You really don't have any peripheral vision. But in this game, it kind of works out because also there's a drone. The blasts there's kind of cues letting you know. So if you see sort of a reddish haze over here, it's like, oh crap, something's coming from this side, and you got to go. And if they were super huge, you would never have that experience because they'd always be at least in part of your vision. So maybe it was a choice, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
I think there's 2. When you talk about PlayStation VR right now, again, Farpoint's not out. There are 2 huge games that people talk about.
Yes.
The first is Resident Evil 7. Like if you don't play through that, you're absolutely crazy. The other one, Dirt Rally.
Dirt Rally.
Now this is stupid. Okay, like remember how last episode I was like, I'm not an online multiplayer competitive shooter.
Yes.
I'm also
not a racer.
Not a fan of simulation racers.
Yeah.
Okay, like I like Burnout and I like arcade racers, Ridge Racer. We've talked about that during our Namco episode. But Dirt Rally is not only a simulation racer, it's a rally racer simulation. How many things that I hate can you put in one game, Codemasters?
So they make it real-time strategy too?
Oh yeah. Oh man. So
that episode is coming. Oh yes.
Eventually. All episodes are coming eventually. Let's put it that way. We're going to run out of topics at some point. We're never going to stop talking though. So I bought this game anyway.
Yeah.
And man, let me tell you how expensive this game can get. Okay, when it launched, because it launched without VR first.
Oh.
And as soon as they announced that VR was coming, the price shot right back up to the full $60, and it stayed there until well after launch.
Of course.
So I bought the physical copy for $60, and then then it was like I think another $15 for the VR patch. So like $75. You have to get this game on sale. Anytime it goes on sale in the PlayStation Store, it's like $35 for everything. Get it, less than half price. Do it. And here's the reason why: because for a guy that hates simulation and rally racing, I love this game. I didn't know anything about rally racing. I knew so little about rally racing. I didn't know what a co-driver was.
That's an important part of rally.
Yeah. I literally had to go online and read the terminology. I had to learn like a new language of like, what this meant and what that meant, because the co-driver's calling out, the next turn.
And he's actually using like the co-driver language?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they don't really tell you in the game what it is. So you go,
that's fantastic.
Go look it up. Yeah. And it's good because eventually it's better than a map eventually. Like on a map you see like the severity of the turn. Yeah. When you get this guy calling things out in your ear, I was playing, hopefully by myself in my apartment, and I'm repeating what he's saying so that I can remember it. Yeah. And I've got the list. I'm like, okay, there's a sharp right turn coming up, followed by like a loose left turn, and then like I really gotta like hit the brakes because hairpin turn after that, and going over. The funny part about all this, since I remember I started the game up and the race was about to start, and then I put the VR helmet on for the very first time, and I put it on. And I remember like looking to my right to grab the controller off the couch, and there's a dude sitting next to me. In like, don't forget, I've been playing a lot of Resident Evil 7 at this point. Scared the F out of me. Like, I dropped the controller. Like I was like, because in VR, like there's suddenly a dude sitting next to you on the couch who wasn't there a second ago. It was scary as hell. Yeah,
I gotta say, like my little notebook story. We think we're so smart, and we think, oh, I know this is a video game and I'm not going to fall. And next thing, you're yelling at invisible guys, you're grabbing notebooks that aren't there. Yeah. Just something about this, when it's done right, it just plugs right into your little monkey brain and completely tricks you into thinking this artificial world is real.
Oh, yeah. I've leaned on tables that don't exist and almost fell over.
One of my favorite clips, I don't know if I showed you, with the professional pool player.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's so good. I don't know if we can pull it up there, or if not, just kind of look it up for yourself. But basically, they have a professional pool player trying VR, and everything's so realistic. He goes to lean on the table like he would, balls flat on his face. Awesome. So good. Anyways.
The final thing I want to say about this, other than, I don't know if you know anything about rally racing. I didn't, for sure. So I was just gunning it around the track.
I know about the Jackie Chan movie, Who Am I?
So you have to be real careful in rally racing. Like you have to like just like feather the gas and like feather the brakes, and you have to like just take every turn easy. Like sometimes it feels like you're going like 20 miles an hour down a back road, which is a lot of times what you're doing. And then like when you suddenly realize you're in first place, you're like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to race. Yeah. It's so difficult to like restrain yourself, because when you're so used to every other racing game in the world, this is crazy. It's a new way of racing. The tracks look beautiful. The cars look beautiful. It's just amazing. And if you get yourself a racing wheel, a nice one, VR becomes like a new thing. You get a steering wheel with your gas and brake foot pedals. Yeah. You are suddenly in the car. It's great without the steering wheel, but you should definitely get one if you're a fan of racing games.
Cool. Yeah. Excellent. So my next one isn't a game per se, but this is the thing that made me go, oh, I get it. Like, this is going to change everything.
I'm intrigued.
This is a movie, I guess you could call it, called Element.
Nice.
This is by Penrose Studios, which was founded by Eugene Chung, who originally came from Oculus.
Oh.
Yeah. Wow. I don't even know if Brian actually knows this. I think he might have guessed. I cried a little bit, honest to God.
Oh.
It's a movie. It's about 20 minutes long. It's based loosely on the Hans Christian Andersen story, The Little Match Girl. And as depressing as you think Alumet is, believe me, The Little Match Girl is even worse. So read that first, and then this will be downright heartwarming. I don't want to talk too much about the story it tells, because that's something you want to watch. But the way it tells it, this is, again, the first thing that made me realize there's something very different coming here. It is animated feature. the credits start and you're in this black room, or just black space, I guess you should say, and all of a sudden, like, little lights light up from people's windows. And I'm like, oh, this is very beautiful and cute, and okay, I kind of get this. All right, I'm going to be okay. And then it actually starts. And we talked about Mervils a little bit, where you're kind of like, you're seeing a game sort of from like this godlike perspective, and everything's little creatures. This does the same thing, but it's right up here.
Yeah.
And it's unless you've had the experience in VR, it's really hard to bring across what this feels like. But literally, like the street, the characters are interacting are right here, and the character is right here in your face. And you can look around completely freely. There is no controller. Like, you can't do anything to change the action, but you can look everywhere. And there's one point where I am so glad Brian did this. There's a little boat that's important to the characters, and you see like kind of a cutaway, and you see the characters, and I'm sitting back enjoying it, and Brian's just like, look inside. What does that even mean? And you turn your head around, and yes, you can actually see inside the ship. And from that moment on, all of a sudden, oh, I've been missing 90% of what's happening here, and you can absolutely do that. You can look everywhere in the movie. And actually that was a choice by Chung. I got a couple quotes from him here. If you give people too much ability to interact with things, it's often harder to tell a story. And that's absolutely true with this. If I was worried about, fast forwarding, rewinding, or simple controls like that, I'd be missing what's happening. The other thing, I think this is so crucially important for understanding what's happening with VR. The best filmmakers weren't stage play or opera directors. It took completely new minds to make things like the close-up. If you ever watch like the first moving pictures, the first movies, early black and white, silent films, they were stage plays. There was a camera, boom, and it was watching what was going on there, because the people who were making those were stage and theater directors. Eventually, a whole new generation came up, people like Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, and they could just say, hey, we don't have to have the camera static. We can move things and hit microphones. We can do things like close-ups and cutaways and all the things that are part of our vernacular now that it seem obvious. I think the same thing's going to happen with VR.
Yeah.
It's going to start with movies like this. It's going to transfer into games. My complaint about Mervils was there's nothing new there. Static, which we mentioned last week, is the first to kind of start playing with that. And I think this right here is just the slightest hint of what could be happening with this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and the craziest part about this is that Element exists with every PlayStation VR that's sold. It's part of the demo disc, and I'm guessing it gets overlooked quite a bit because it's not a game. And it definitely should be checked out, because you do have that awakening when you experience it for yourself.
I really think that if this was the first VR experience I had, I would have started with a whole different attitude towards it. Watch this. If you have a PSVR, if you have a PSVR and you haven't watched this, just as soon as we're done,
pull out the demo disc, man. Go do it.
Do it. It's a beautiful. It's a sad story. My one critique was they chose, and I think it's a good choice, not to have any actual language.
Yeah.
The characters speak, kind of vocalizations like that, which is fine. But I think sometimes it goes on a little long.
I agree with you.
Less is more as far as that goes. Yeah. And the pacing, it doesn't have to be 20 minutes long. I think they could chop it down a little bit. But that being said, because of the way the story is told, you're so wrapped up in it. And I cried. I honest to God cried a little bit. So, yeah.
Want to snuggle?
No.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I keep trying.
You had your chance yesterday. I was vulnerable.
Where's Michelle?
Thank goodness that the mask hides the tears.
Where's Michelle? Michelle snuggles. So on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you know how my favorite genre of games is light gun shooters?
Yes.
And everything else.
And everything else.
On the planet. Mortal Blitz.
Mortal Blitz.
By Skonek Entertainment.
Mortal Blitz!
Well, right, kind of, right? Yeah. It's a horrible name.
Yeah,
horrible name.
It's not great.
It does. It sounds like a awful '90s video game, Mortal Kombat, and Mortal Blitz with a Z, by the way. That's how you spell Blitz.
Yeah, it is.
God damn it. So Mortal Blitz spelled properly is what we're trying to say. It's about an hour-long light gun shooter game. Again, here you are with your Move controllers.
Okay.
A little force feedback this time. A little zip, zip, zip.
All right.
And this is Time Crisis in VR.
Ooh.
Yeah,
we do like some Time Crisis.
The first couple stages are the best because you're basically flying in some kind of helicopter of sorts or whatever, and like you're shooting this train from like a distance, and you can see the city down below you.
Like Gunblade.
Like Gunblade.
Yeah.
Yep. If it moves, shoot it.
So it's two of our favorite games so far: Time Crisis and Gunblade.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it just feels very, very good. At one point, you're on top of the train, and you have to move out of the way of things coming at you while you're shooting your enemies. But ignore all of that, because the thing that's most important in this game is so cool, and it's got a stupid name, just like the name of the game. It's called the Groggy system, and the Groggy system is when you shoot a character enough times. Picture like playing Street Fighter 2 and you beat somebody up and they get dazed.
Yeah.
Well, this is the similar thing. You shoot somebody enough times, they get dazed, they get groggy, right? And they turn pink or something. Okay. Right? And now you've got guns in each hand. Unlike VR invaders, there are guns around the environment. There are grenades around the environment, and you can just and you have like somewhat of a telekinesis power. So you can hit a button to drop a gun and then grab that one. But what you can also do is drop the gun, and when somebody's groggy, use your telekinesis, and you pull them at you. You like thrust them into the air at you in slow motion, and then as soon as they're coming at you, you grab one of those guns, and then you dual wield when they're coming at you in slow motion. You bam, 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 and the number of times you hit them as they're coming at you gives you a ranking. So like one of those one of those voices from like a 90s arcade cabinet comes out of your speaker, and it goes Annihilator or Devastator, and it gives you a certain number of points along with the ranking and a health upgrade for being really good at shooting things in slow motion.
All right.
It's like stupid fun.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's a little on the overpriced side. It's $20, and it only takes about an hour to get through all of the stages, but they're promising DLC coming, and we're all fingers crossed hoping it's free DLC because we paid $20 for the hour-long game. So we'll see if that's the case or not. It's probably not going to be. But I don't regret $20 for this because it's fun to play through. I'll play it through multiple times on multiple difficulty levels. Good game.
Yeah, I will say in general, it seems like we need to make a little readjustment for price versus time on these. I think you were talking about like your movie theater analogy. I think that if you want
the movie theater analogy is pretty simple. I've used it in the comments before. I go see a movie. It's like roughly $13 these days, like $12.95 to see a movie, and I go see it for an hour and a half minimum, but not more than 3 hours. And I get home, and I can only tell my friends about it. I can't even share it with them. So if when a game comes out and it's $20, I get to keep that game, and I get to show it with my friends, and I get to replay it over and over and over again. It's for an hour, 2 hour game. I don't really see the problem. I understand everybody's financial situation is different. If you're like slinging burgers at McDonald's, I get it. Like it's you've probably got bills to pay and stuff that are more important than video games.
But I gotta say, I mean, if you're at the point where you've already got the PS4 and the PSVR,
you probably aren't in a tight financial situation.
Yeah, if you're complaining about spending $20 on a game, then maybe your priorities. I don't want to judge, but
But also, devil's advocate, I want to make sure that we keep the developers in check. We can't just be buying every game that comes
no question.
out.
No, don't. It's not. It's good because it's $20. No, it's if it's crap. Well, I mean, we're talking about the games that we liked for this amount. But yeah, if it's crap for $20, it's crap for $60. If it's crap for $1, don't buy it.
Yeah, vote with your wallet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then it's honorable mention time again.
Honorable mention, yeah.
How do we always get to this time over and over and over again?
So this is, this is a game I've enjoyed before in the past, but not for more than 5 minutes at a time. This is, of course, Fruit Ninja. Yay! Yeah, there's a VR version of this now. And, I've played it swipey on my phone. I even went to Dave & Buster's and played the big 40-inch screen version. And it's always entertaining for a couple minutes, but then it's like, okay, good God, this is where Fruit Ninja belongs. Yeah, this was the most fun I've had playing this game. It's one of the most fun experiences I've had. This is my honorable mention, not because it was less enjoyable than the other games. It's just not a lot to say. It's Fruit Ninja. Yeah. Fruit shoots up, you hit it with your swipe of your finger. At the first minute or so I played this, I was a little disappointed. Because, okay, maybe this was the reason why, but I do fencing, and we're a lot about kind of point control and sort of using sort of thrusting motions. And the move controller kind of had a problem with that. And I was like, it's not really tracking very, very well. And this guy's going to say it was because Des was using it wrong. If you do big swipey slashing motions, it's awesome and tracks perfectly and so much fun. I think you guys were even laughing at me because I knocked something over. I was going nuts.
I was actually, I didn't tell you this. I'm obviously telling you this for the first time here. I was watching you play, and you were doing like I could tell you've worked with swords before because like you were using like the number of times I saw you do something like this, and and like you hit every single piece of fruit on the screen. I was like with both of your swords. I was like that's impressive. I've played this game for hours and never once pulled off a maneuver like that.
Parry attack.
Yeah, it was. But using the sides of your sword is interesting because every other version of Fruit Ninja, you're just one-dimensional or two-dimensional slicing.
Yeah.
So how did that work for you? Using the sides of
it was a little finicky. That's I think where you start getting to some of the limitations of the move controller. Because the idea is if you pivot and hit with the flat of your blade, you can knock the bombs out of the way.
Yeah.
Which is great, but I'm hesitant to blame this on the move controller. It may be my lack of skill and finesse, or it may be the controller wasn't quite tracking because I was boom, but again, I'm more used to these quicker, finer motions. I think maybe.
So here's the thing. I don't want to blame the game on this. Because we were having great tracking with the move up until this point. And I don't remember, I obviously played it and reviewed it. I don't remember having any tracking issues. I remember those swords being one-to-one, very, very precise. Yeah. And it did not look like you were having that experience. I don't know what happened. Maybe there was an update that screwed it up.
No, I think it was how I was trying to use it. I think if you used the smooth motions like that, really, really good. There are some actions that I was trying that, again, maybe it's because I'm mapped, like physically doing something a little smaller, like these small tight circles that I was trying to do, it wasn't happy with.
Gotcha.
If you are a fencer, parry 7, parry 8, it did not like it all. So when I was trying to use the flat of the blade, I wasn't doing like a big scooping motion that most people would do. I was boom,
Gotcha.
And I think that's maybe where it was having issues.
Okay.
But yeah, this is great. I mean, you want to live your ninja fantasies, play this game. That's it.
All right. Well,
it's amazing.
And my honorable mention is again not an honorable mention.
I'm sorry. I will say this was the only game that Brian had to pull me off of and say, no, we need to move on to the next thing now. We're running out of time.
Yeah. We have things to do and people to pick up from school.
Yeah.
My honorable mention again, just like yours, not honorable mention because it's lesser of a game. This is it's just honorable mention because there's not a whole lot to say about it. Pinball FX2 VR. Now, that's a long mouthful. But the important part of Pinball FX2 VR is that it's Zen Pinball. And Zen Pinball is made by Zen Studios, and Zen Studios is the master of all video game pinball. These guys know their stuff. They've been doing it for a long time. They've got all the licenses, all the cool things. There's all the Star Wars tables. There's all of the.
Do you have the next gen table? The Star Wars Next Generation pinball table?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, that's one of my favorites.
I don't know. I don't have it for Zen Pinball.
Okay.
But yeah, they decided to finally unite the PC and console gamers because it was Pinball FX on the PC and it was Zen Pinball on the consoles. And finally, let's just get this out of the way and unite everybody under the Pinball FX name.
Cool.
So Zen Pinball or Pinball FX2 VR is it's a lot of the same tables that I've played before on my PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 and Zen Pinball, but in VR. Now the weird thing about that is like you're suddenly further away from the table, like because now there's a table.
Yeah.
There's a table in your line of sight that you can move around and look around, and so you're further away from it. But for some reason in VR this works better because there's that 3D depth to it, and it feels you find yourself hovering over, like you're like literally hovering over it, like you would like leaning on a pinball table. And like the number of times I found myself looking almost straight down, just because I was in VR was ridiculous. And so like it really worked for me. And what else really worked for me was that Zen Studios actually use the environment around the table as well. So if you're playing like the Walking Dead table, you have Clementine hiding like on the side of the table, and zombies like coming at her and stuff. And you're playing one about UFOs, and there will like literally be UFOs like flying around your head.
That's cool.
In the environment. And even the room gets dark, and there's like zombies, like like putting their hands up on the window from outside. Like they really just play with like the environment, like to make you really think that you're in like this, dusty, dank arcade.
I would kind of question the logic of that. If you were in the zombie apocalypse, the first thing you want to do is play a zombie pinball game.
I mean, if that's the only thing in the room,
that's true.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
So again, there's not much to say about it except for the fact that I didn't think I wanted to put a VR helmet on to play pinball, but guess what? I did, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Fair, you want to put a VR helmet on to do everything.
I would like to somehow go to work in VR. I don't know how to make that happen, but let's find a way.
Sangria Pour 2. No.
It's ridiculous.
Yay.
Ridiculous. So guys, this is... I mean, obviously, over this week and last week, we covered 12 games.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many games out for PlayStation VR, and then there's more coming out every week. So, I mean, like, just why don't you tell us in the comments what ones you're looking forward to? Obviously, we're going to do our absolute best to cover them on Without Parole games.
Yep.
And, of course, at some point, we'll come back and tackle this again here on Gaming Without Parole, Part 4.
And my last word, if you or someone you know is someone who's hesitant about doing VR because they have motion sickness issues, I totally, believe me, I'm on the board with you. Find a game like Static, like Fruit Ninja, like Elumet even, something where you, the player, are stationary and looking around at moves, and it's going to be a whole different experience. Yeah. It's when... Basically, I think we talked about this before. It's when the world is moving in a way that you aren't, that the motion sickness happens. But some of these games we talked about, I had no issue at all, and would love to continue playing. So there's hope.
Right on. Yeah. Right on. I really hope this. I hope that PlayStation VR continues to sell well. I hope that Vive and Oculus sell well because I mean, if people don't buy it and people don't adopt this new technology, then we're never going to move forward. So if you were on the fence about giving it a shot, hopefully these episodes have kind of clued you in that it's pretty amazing.
I want this to stay alive long enough so Pixar does a VR movie.
That would be phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. All right, dude. I think we need to wrap it up for the night.
Okay.
All right. So for Gaming Without Parole, I'm Brian Paul.
I'm Desra.
We'll see you next week.